have been keeping up with tech the last year or so, or maybe the last few months, you would notice that a lot of the tech things or the tech news has really been graphically oriented, meaning that a lot of the stuff that's been coming out or has been unveiled has really been on the graphical side of the tech world. I mean, we had a ton of 4K stuff unveiled at CES. We had the 750 Ti just released and the R7 265 on its way, and we have a ton of games that really need more powerful CPUs graphically to play them, which is a pretty cool segue to where I was going to go with this video. I mean, if you guys know, my system has a 7770, and even though it's a pretty decent budget card, it's not really cutting it for a lot of games at 1080p. And so what I've been trying to figure out is, should I get another 770 in Crossfire, or should I just save up a little bit more and get a stronger single graphics card for around the same price? For the two, at least. And so with that being said, the point of this video is to help you guys decide, and me myself, decide which one is better. To have two graphics cards in a system or have one single graphics card. So let's begin. And so to really start off this sort of mini battle between the two, I have to really explain what multi-GPU systems really do and what they are, briefly anyway. Anyway, there are two different kinds of multi-GPU systems. If you have NVIDIA cards, then you will have to go with SLI, and if you have AMD cards, then CrossFire X is your only option. With that out of the way, the gist of a multi-GPU system is when you have two graphics cards that actually act like one. They sort of become friends inside of your system, and they can act as one single graphics card to give you really good performance. I bet a lot of you already knew this, but in case you didn't, you might be wondering, why don't I just go with two graphics cards? Doesn't that mean double the performance theoretically? And well, yes, but that's just it. It means double the performance theoretically, but that's not true about 99% of the time. So if you look at the compatibility of a single graphics card versus a dual graphics card, or tri, or whatever you guys want, but CrossFire X or SLI, you will see that a standard graphics card, meaning just one single one, can work with pretty much any motherboard that's been made within the last 10 years. All it really needs is one PCI Express slot, 2.0, 3.0, 1.0, it will work with anything, and it's backwards compatible, and that's pretty much all you need. SLI or CrossFire X, you probably already realized that you have two cards, meaning that you'll have two slots at least that you need to hold both of your graphics cards, meaning that you do have to spend a bit more for a better motherboard that can support dual or even tri or even quad. Yes, there's even quad SLI or CrossFire X if that's what you're looking for. When it comes to heat, you do have to remember that you have two graphics cards, which means you almost have double the amount of heat output. They're also right next to each other when they're in SLI or Crossfire, so in that area of the case, there may be an abnormal amount of heat being outputted from those two devices. It is pretty smart to invest into better case fans, especially if you have a smaller case or maybe even a water block for your two graphics cards, just to be sure that you have very good cooling for both of them. Fortunately, if you're only running one graphics card, then you won't really have to worry about heat output as much, considering you have about half of what the dual graphics cards would have. So I would maybe invest into a few case fans, but I really wouldn't spend more than maybe $20 to $25 or maybe up to $50 on cooling if you only have a single graphics card, unless you have a really high tier, high-end one that does output a lot of heat generally. It's actually pretty ironic because the same thing can be said for power consumption. If you have two graphics cards, you are you are consuming about double the amount of power than a single one would. So if you have two graphics cards, make sure that you have a really strong power supply that's made by a very, very, very good brand. Some good ones that I can name on top of my head are Antec, Corsair, Seasonic, PC Power, and Cooling something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's something along those lines. But don't skimp out, especially if you're upgrading to two graphics cards. You really need a lot of power there. Now for a single graphics card, it really can vary. If you're getting a higher tier one, like maybe the 770, 780 Ti, or maybe one of the the R9s, the 280Xs, the 290s, you do really want to spend a bit more on your power supply just to make sure you're getting the wattage that you need to run the card correctly. If you're getting more of a budget graphics card, with the exception of maybe a 750 Ti, which is specifically meant to be run on lower end PSUs, then you don't need to spend as much, but you still need to spend it on a good power supply, just to make sure you get the wattage that you need and your PC doesn't blow up. And now that I've pretty much run through all of the pros and cons, I feel like this video wouldn't really be complete without any benchmarks. Now, if you want to skip this whole intro into the benchmarks thing, you can. I'll put a time annotation below. But I have all of my benchmarks from the website TechSpot, and what they did was that they tested two 660 Ti's in SLI versus one 680, and two 7850s or 70s, I have to double check, in CrossFire X against one 7970. And while most of the scores were pretty on point, a lot of them were pretty interesting and they varied quite a bit. So I'd like to share a couple of them with you. But if you want to see the whole thing, the article link is down in the description below, and you can check that out at any time during the video. So right now I will put the benchmarks on the screen of select games at select settings, and all that will be on the benchmark itself, and you guys can see the performance difference between the Crossfire cards and the single AMD card, and this, the SLI cards and the single NVIDIA GPU. With pretty crazy results, the two 660 Ti's in SLI were on average about 26% faster than the 680 in single GPU mode, and in some cases it was even 50% faster, which is pretty mind-blowing considering that they're about the same price. Now the two 7850s in Crossfire are not as mind-blowing considering that they were only about 8% faster than the 7970 on average, but considering that they're about the same price, it's not that big of a deal because that's still a pretty awesome increase for about the same price of an upgrade. So I think it's pretty safe to say that SLI and CrossFire X are more powerful on average. There are a lot of other tests. I mean, this isn't the go-to end-all kind of test that you should go to in case you're wondering what the performance difference is, but this is a nice test and will show you what will happen in real-life situations most of the time. But there are a few drawbacks, even though that they're pretty powerful. The 660 Ti's were about 31% more power hungry than the single 680, meaning that you need about a PSU that's about 31% more powerful, and that's pretty crazy. That's a lot of money that you can spend elsewhere for something else. On the other hand, which is the pretty interesting part that I said earlier, the 7870s were 11% less power hungry than the single 7970. Which is pretty awesome. So I would say that if you have a 7870, definitely go for that thing in Crossfire if your power supply can handle it. So overall, I would say the verdict really depends. If in case that you don't have a pretty up to par power supply, just go ahead and buy another graphics card because SLI or Crossfire probably isn't the right thing for you. But if your computer can handle it, then go ahead and try it out. You can always return the card and get your money back and go to a single card if you want to. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you found it very useful. Make sure you guys give TechSpot some love for letting me use their article, and I'll see you guys later in my next video. Peace.